Kura team, welcome back. It's me. It's Deadside. Right, let's talk about missions. Because it's all well and good grinding your way up with this and that and everything else. But like I said, if you want to get stuff, you're really going to have to get stuck into the missions. So there's a bunch of different kinds of missions. Well, there's four, right? So there's easy, one stripe. There is medium, two stripes. There is hard, three stripes. And the good old star, which is down here, is epic. Now, there's obviously a difference between easy, medium, hard, and epic. And we're going to get into that, and I'll go through each of the four different mission types that I have completed in turn. But the reality is, the harder the mission, the harder the people, the better armed and armored they are, but also the better gear you get at the end of it. So let's get stuck in, and you can have a watch of some of the missions while we have a little bit of chinwag, right? Let's see you soon. Right, so here we are coming up on a easy mission, and just for the avoidance of doubt, this is speeded up in playback because it does take a little bit of time to do. Some of the missions obviously take longer to do than others, so obviously I've had to speed this up, otherwise you sit through my various missions and various bits and pieces. So in terms of these missions, so I do this solo, so I'm going solo, so I'm going to do all of these missions solo. A, to show you it can be done. I am not the best player in the world, and and B, because that's how I play. So here you go. A couple of things to bear in mind. These easy guys, they're really just dressed like scavs, right? As you call them. They are wearing jeans and t-shirts. They don't necessarily come armored. You might find the odd one that might have like a police vest on or something like that. But for the most part, no. Pardon me. And they usually have, the best thing they've probably got is a Mosin, but they might have various submachine guns and various bits and pieces and all the rest of it. So, it's up to you. You can loot them all if you want, and you can grab a whole load of stuff. If you're going to do that, be aware that you're going to need somewhere carting all of this around. In terms of numbers during an easy mission, you're looking at about 10 or 12-ish. So you're not really looking at a vast amount of people, and you'll be able to get through it quite quickly. But if you are planning on bringing all the gear back with you, there is every possibility you will need a vehicle to be able to recover that. So look, if you can wander around the map and you can handle random patrols, you can probably handle an easy mission. It's not that hard, and you get a few little bits and pieces. Sometimes you have to track down the odd straggler, and there you go. That is the easy mission dealt with. And then you need to go and find out where the gear is, and the gear is over here, and you get a few little odds and sods. Moving on to our medium mission. Now, you're gonna need, don't underestimate these missions. Easy mission, yeah, fine, okay. I generally do that, out in the open with a bit of leg room for running around and moving about and getting out of the way. As I've said before with these bots, they are darn good shots. They move around a lot. They strafe. They're not totally dumb, and they can be pretty tough sometimes. And there's way more of them, right? So if you're playing, even if you're playing like 2 or 3 of you, there'll be 3 or 4 times as many of them. So you need to be careful with that, and sometimes it's hard to find the odd straggler. But I tend to snipe. I'm solo. I have a good weapon here. I have a VSD, which is pretty good. I found at the top of a tower block in Kamensk, which is fantastic. It's a very high-tiered weapon. I'm very lucky to have it. You can take them out with something lesser. You're just going to require a few more shots. Little trick is shoot for the legs. So their bodies are armored, their heads are armored, but their legs aren't. So you can often one-shot an armored bot by shooting him in the legs. Don't go for the body because they're wearing body armor, and sometimes they're wearing helmets. So even if you're trying to get a good headshot, you have to get them in the face, obviously, because we don't have armor-plated masks. do check. Like I said, they don't all come out to play. Occasionally, some of them hide inside the buildings, and you need to go and have a look and have a scout around and find out where they are. For the small and medium missions, usually the area of the mission is not very large, so they're generally not hiding too far away. But for the larger missions, they do tend to get about a bit. So there you go. There is the medium mission done. Find the tick, find the box, look what's inside. So not dissimilar to the easy, you get a few basic things. You get a grenade, you get a submachine gun, you get some ammo. You might get an armored helmet or two. You might get a vest, like a police vest. You're probably not going to get anything super strange, startling, or exciting. So that's easy and medium. Right. Now we're getting into the tricky stuff. This is a hard mission, so this is going to go a lot faster because there's a lot more time spent on this hard mission. The hard mission that I'm doing here, and I think the epic mission that you'll see afterwards, both took roughly the same time, which was about 30-35 minutes. Again, from a sniping perspective, and that's the way I play, the key here is to get to a good vantage point where you can figure out what is going on and try and lure them out. They will come out if you start shooting. So you see, I start picking them off on the building opposite, and very soon they're going to come out. Now, because the two buildings are connected, they come out to the roof on the other side. They're still not great at pathfinding at this point. So although they could run out and run up the stairs, there's no intervening doors between me and this rooftop. They don't do it. So I just sit up here and pick them off, and they keep coming up and they keep getting in the way, and I keep shooting them, aiming for the legs, like I said, taking a lot of them out, and occasionally taking a little bit of damage. You can't help it. Like I said, there'll be 2 or 3 or 4 of them at a time. Now, the thing is, like I said, they won't all come out. So there's a few people lurking in that building. So I'm going to have to go in. I'm going to have to clear that building. But I want to make absolutely sure I've got as many people out as possible by checking the windows. And sometimes they'll take pot shots at you, and you might be able to get them. I get 1 or 2 through the windows. Sometimes you don't. That's the way it goes. Now, in terms of finding you or not finding you, what I've found is if you are crouched, you're very, very quiet, and they seem unable to locate you very well. Whereas if you're standing up fully, they seem to be able to locate you very well, track to you very well. So I spend a lot of my time running around these missions trying to get into sneaky positions. By crouch walking, and that's fine, and that's okay. Sometimes that's what you have to do. The other issue is that is the noise of their footsteps. I couldn't figure out where they were on this one for a while. I could hear them running around, but there's no distance. There is a bit of distance in the footsteps, but inside buildings, the footsteps kind of travel quite a distance, and it turned out that they were using that connecting bridge between the two buildings to get backwards and forwards. Once I figured that out, I could dash on and I could get inside. So I'm heading my way inside, and we'll go and have a quick look at what happens then. Right, so I find a way across the top of the bridge, which is better than going through the bridge. At least, I think it's better than going through the bridge. And I can hear an awful lot of footsteps. There are an awful lot of footsteps inside this building. Or at least there's several footsteps. It's very hard to discern sometimes exactly how many people you're dealing with. But I do manage to track those footsteps down into this room over here on my left. And it turns out there's a party in the toilets. And I subsequently get dead. Now that brings me into the next thing. If you were paying attention, you will have seen that I put a sleeping bag in the tower opposite before I even started all this. So now I know where my body is and roughly where they are. I can get my way across the building back to where my body is. Now, the issue is here, I don't want to go in there completely empty-handed. I did think about it for a bit, and I thought that's actually probably not a very good idea. I'd already killed an awful lot of guys on the roof, as you have seen, so it became a fairly simple task of going back up to the roof and collecting some gear, just in case. And then once you're getting across to your body, you try and get to your body as much as you can without getting spotted. Now, my advice for that is you're going to want to rush up to your body and you're going to want to collect everything, which means you need to be essentially naked, which is what I did. And then I picked up everything in a hurry and I got everything I needed. At this point, it's okay. I can take stock. I can repair whatever needs to be repaired in terms of my body. When you start out, you're not as healthy, so you have to kind of get yourself up a little bit health-wise and then crack on. And then it's simply a case of wandering through and clearing the rest of the stuff. Right, and here we are, one hard mission completed. A little bit more things, bits and pieces, some more ammo, better gun, I think it's a Mosin, we got some medicaments, we got an assault helmet, run out of a bit of space, we got to drop a couple of things. Better things, but not a super amount of things, which is absolutely fine. And that was a hard mission. Right, here we go. Epic mission. And we are cracking on. Really a lot harder. The epic mission. A lot harder? Maybe. It's certainly harder. The benefit that I have here is that these guys are a little bit smarter. So I had to go on the roof. Now, just fortunately enough, where I am, this is a school building in Kamensk overlooking the train depot. And again, it's one of those things. Pick your fights, pick your places. Now, I'm pretty well sorted by this time. I'm wearing an assault helmet and an assault vest. So I'm pretty well armored here. And I brought a lot of medical stuff, made sure I brought a lot of medical stuff, made sure I brought a lot of ammunition. I probably should have said, although you may have seen if you've had a look at the hard mission in total, but there's about 30 or so, maybe more, of these military-style bots in the hard mission. So I think probably the biggest jump in difficulty is from medium to hard. I think from hard to epic wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be really dreadful. It's kind of like hard plus. It's not like crazy. But like I said, by this stage I'm a little bit better kitted, and I've made sure that I've got all my medical stuff, and I've made sure that I've found myself a position where they can't get at me. So it really is a case of shooting fish in a barrel, sort of. it's still you still got to be a pretty good shot. I mean, I don't mind saying that during this epic mission, I pulled out some pretty good sniping shots, even if I do say so, and that's pretty rare for me because I'm not actually usually that great a shot. But I did manage to get some pretty good shots in. So it's always a good idea to just double check, make sure. You know, I made sure before I started that I couldn't be flanked on any in any way. But if I was inside the building, they would come into the building and they would take me on. So at this point, I very much made sure that I was out on the roof and taking them on from there. They have a lot of good guns, obviously. They have a lot of armor. They're pretty much all wearing at least some form of body armor and some form of head armor. So they are just essentially military, and you just have to take them on like that. And you just have to keep plugging away, and be patient. They will come around eventually. They will come around eventually, but you'll probably get a feel for the numbers. And after they start getting a little bit quieter, it's probably the time to do a little bit more adventuring. Yeah, as I said, you cannot hang around forever. You will have to get yourself out there, and you will have to start looking for them. The area for this, they covered a huge amount of area, and even with all of my previous gunfire and all of the running around and all of the killing everybody, they wouldn't abandon their posts, as it were. So I had to go and I had to take them on, and that means getting out there, getting on foot, picking your battles. But it's better when you know you're dealing with half a dozen, and you're not dealing with 3 dozen. So I'd say, that's the thing. Make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you've got your advantages. Make sure you're not going to get flanked as far as you know, and crack on and do the rest of the running around. And unfortunately, like I said, with big areas, it's sometimes hard because you have to you have to see if there's anybody lurking around, and it's not abundantly clear where the area is. So I had to get out and do a little bit of running, which is fine. I took out some people, I scouted around, I ran around the rest of the base. You did notice probably on the hard mission and just then on the epic mission, there are booby traps. So there's tripwires. So they're pretty obvious, but do be aware of that. And then down here, this is where we find the last guy sneaking around. I've had them hiding around in buildings before. This guy just happened to walk around the corner and get shot. So that's that. And then we have a look at what we got. So yeah, you can see an awful lot more stuff generally. Heavy assault helmets, we got some muzzle brakes, we got a scar, we got a load of ammo, we got a load of dynamite sticks, we got a lot of dog tags. Dog tags are worth quite a bit of money. We got some high-end things. We got that, which is the bunker key. We really wanted to get that. Great that we got the bunker key. We got the N4 shotgun, which is great. A whole bunch of medicaments, and we got some bits and pieces, which is Kevlar and plate. And that's it. That is an epic mission. And that's it for this episode. That is all the missions. That is what they look like. That is what you will be facing when you take on missions. But don't despair, because if I can do it, I'm almost certain that you can do it. Unless you're even worse than me, and I find that hard to believe. So yeah, there you go. That's what missions look like. That's what you're getting involved with. Like I said, if you want to scavenge some stuff around, do make sure you bring a vehicle of some description. My only caveat with that would obviously you got to get that vehicle there, so you just got to be quiet about how close you get, because vehicles are kind of noisy. And you also have to be aware that when you start killing multiple bots in multiple locations, once you transit away from those bots, they start despawning after a period of time. So I find being able to pick up some of the easier to carry things like ammunition boxes is great, because you can fill up an ammunition box, and a lot of the ammunition boxes are like you have to sell a full box of 500 at the trader to make it worth your while. But by all means, do that. But, get stuck in, give it a try. Remember your sleeping bags, because your sleeping bags are your spawn point. If you do start to get overwhelmed, try to get into an area where you know you can probably safely recover your body, even if you do die, because you're going to respawn at your sleeping bag. I hope you found this helpful. If you have, click that like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the bell notification so you know when the next one of these is coming out. And I'll see you all for a little bit more Deadside real soon. Ta-ta for now.